Hey guys, it's CJ, and we are back today with another episode review for Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, last night wasn't just the most explosive episode, but they did give us two new additions to the cast, so we'll talk about them in a minute. But before we get started, as always, please make sure that you thumbs up this video. And as always, all comments are welcome. I like to discuss, so feel free to comment in the comment section. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you're here for all the other content that I put out, all the other reviews. Like I said, I will be adding a few more additions to the lineup just to kind of give us a little more of a variety, and so that I can hopefully relate to, more viewers, and we can kind of get our family up a little bit. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Now, this episode starts with Kenya, and Kenya is outside in a sundress blowing leaves off of her patio in this really flowy dress, and she's got little sweat marks on it under the boobage area, but she is obviously entertaining some of the girls. They're going to come over and I guess kind of chill or whatever. But Cynthia shows up, and Cynthia is bearing gifts and wine, and she had a cute little gift for baby Brooklyn. And it's obviously like sweltering out there. I think they let us know it was like 93 degrees. So I understand why they're sitting outside, because for some reason people felt like outdoor events kind of helped them to keep, I guess, the virus at bay at one point, but it is airborne and I guess it can spread. So I don't really know how great of an idea that is, rather than just sitting inside in your masks and the air conditioning. But hey, it is what it is. Kenya told Cynthia that she was inviting LaToya to come and hang out with them. And they met LaToya through Candy. And they met LaToya at Todd's birthday get together. And Cynthia didn't really know how she felt about that. Cynthia was kind of in her feelings a little bit. She's like, wait a minute, you just met this girl and now you're inviting her into your home. I think that's kind of weird. But Kenya liked her vibe, and Kenya feels like they probably can be good friends. So she did want her to come over. And she gets there, and Cynthia makes a comment because Kenya says, well, I probably may need to go down to the gate and get her or whatever. And Cynthia was like, well, I just had to kind of make my way through the weeds and find my way here. But, oh, you going to get her? It's like, she was kind of joking, but at the same time, you could tell she wasn't really joking, because we know how possessive these ladies can get when it comes to their friends. And maybe she just wasn't quite feeling LaToya the first go around. So Cynthia is definitely going to keep her good eye on LaToya. LaToya gets there, and, she asks Kenya how it was being with the Trinidadian man. And Kenya just says, that people tried to warn her about him, that they're crazy and everything. And so LaToya did pretty much agree. And she also said that he was, the term horror or something, Hoya or something. Anyway, it was like a Trinidadian term, I guess, for a hoe or whatever, because they are unfaithful, and that's what they're known to be. But they laughed, and like they asked her to spell it, and she couldn't spell it. She was like, I can't spell it, or whatever. But it was a funny little kiki. But they also, Kenya just, slides in there that she's going to steal LaToya from Candy. I think she's trying to slick work on getting her alliance kind of solidified. And LaToya, if she brings LaToya into the fold, I guess she feels like LaToya will be on her side. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating, but we'll see how that goes. Now, Latoya also lets them know that she and her husband are going through a separation, or they're about to go through a separation. He served her with papers recently, but she didn't seem too messed up about it, did she? Seemed like she really cared to y'all. But anyway, she just said that they're going through their separation. And Cynthia, she didn't go into detail as to why they're separating, but they are. And Cynthia uses that time to kind of let them know that she is having another event at Lake Bailey, a gathering, where she wants the ladies to get together and try some different wines that she's considering adding to the wine cellar that she has there in Atlanta. But the cool thing about it is that all of these companies are black owned, so they're black owned wineries, and she just thinks that is really a dope concept. So I hope that they were successful in that. And we then go to Portia, her little scene. She was FaceTiming her mom and her sister, letting them know that she was on her way home from being released from prison during the Breonna Taylor protest. I think they were sitting on the governor's lawn, or they were there, and she was arrested amongst a group of other people. And so she is on her way home. They were just kind of embracing one another, Lauren and her mom, because they were happy that she was okay and that she was on her way home, and they were very proud of her. So then we get back to Cynthia, and Cynthia is like at a dinner or out to eat, and she is actually meeting with the cast's latest housewife, Drew Sidora. Now, we all know Drew Sidora from the show The Game. That's where I recognize her most. And she was in other stuff like White Girls, and she's been in like a ton of stage plays. But she and Cynthia actually met through Eva. Eva and Drew were good friends, and while she was out in LA, I guess they really got cool. And so now Drew has moved to Atlanta with her family, and she's kind of hoping to get her acting career, up and running there in Atlanta. Excuse me. And so they get together, and Cynthia kind of asks Drew, if she knows Kenya. I guess because the two of them are both black actresses, and Drew was like, nah, she doesn't know her. And she wasn't really saying it in a shady way. There is like a significant age gap between the two of them. So unless they've really kind of done roles together, they don't run in the same circles. And so there's really not a reason for the two of them to know one another. And Cynthia was like, oh, no shade. And she did. I don't think she meant it in a shady way. Did y'all? I honestly didn't think that she did. But she just, I think that they're trying to cook up a beef between, somebody's got to have a beef, since our beloved antagonist Nene is no longer on the show. They have to cook up something where Kenya will have conflict with one of the housewives. We know it's not going to be Cynthia, and Candy is not going to be Candy. So, and Portia, it could be Portia if push came to shove, but that beef is old, and I don't see that one cooking back up. So, and we know that Kenya is known to almost kind of haze the new housewives, or she treats them not so well, which was very strange to us as to why she kind of took to Latoya so fast. And that's what kind of fuels my theory about her trying to get, an alliance, getting someone aligned with her to where she doesn't have to fight these battles alone with the women, because we know that Kenya is going to have to fight. But anyway, we see the next morning, and Drew and her husband are actually celebrating. It's their 6th wedding anniversary. And so they bring her flowers, and Drew's mom is in town. She's quarantined with them because, she came to visit after Drew had a surgery, And then, the world shut down. And so she just kind of stayed. So they sang a anniversary song to her, and that mom convinces them to, attend a praise and worship service with her. And it was a cute little scene or whatnot. But they've only been married for 6 years, and they've been together for 6.5 years. So they kind of had a whirlwind kind of romance. They got married very, very fast, and it seems to be standing the test of time. They seem to be doing, pretty good. So then we go to Candy and Mama Joyce. They are on their way to Riley's graduation. It's graduation day for Riley. And of course, since COVID is kind of running through and wrecking shop, only 2 people can attend the graduation, I guess, per student. So Candy, of course, felt it was only right if Mama Joyce was the second guest. And Todd was cool with that. I'm sure he probably felt a kind of way, but he, of course, was going to understand. And nobody wanted to fight Mama Joyce about that. That was just, it wasn't worth it. And so they talk about when Candy was in Escape, they started out very, very young, as we all know. And she was still in high school, and it was graduation. And so Mom was bound and determined to get her across that stage. So Candy almost missed, I guess, a performance that they had. But Mama Joyce was like, no, I worked too hard to get her graduated. She is going to go across this stage. And Candy was kind of like, you worked hard. So Mama was like, yeah, I was the one going up to the school, getting the papers. But it was a really cute little scene. And they just kind of talk about, how now she wasn't ready. Riley, she just, could remember Riley being a child. Now Riley is graduating, and she's getting ready to go off to NYU, and she's getting ready to embark on womanhood. So we got a little scene. This next scene, basically with Portia and her mom, all it did for me was basically a setup to Dennis and Portia's breakup, because she was saying how being in close quarters with somebody all that time, all it did basically for them was to magnify the toxic traits, I guess. It didn't make sense to me, because all she said was, it took somebody too long to get PJ's bottle. That's toxic to me. I don't think that Portia quite understood. I guess toxic can mean toxic, to anybody. It can mean something different to you than it means to me. But I don't define that as toxic. I just define that as you just being very irritated with somebody. Y'all haven't had enough time apart, and being in such close quarters for so long of a time. It really does kind of, it's a test, because you really get to see how much you can tolerate this person. And it's obvious that the 2 of them can't tolerate each other long enough to stay together. They're not together now, but this to me was kind of setting us up for their future breakup. So now we're at Lake Bailey, and the women, they start arriving for the wine tasting. So Kenya brings LaToya, of course. And the minute they get there, they start shading Cynthia's setup, are those fake? Is that a fake plant? Cynthia, why you got these fake grapes on this plate? They are just kind of just picking apart every little thing. And I thought it was a nice enough setup. She didn't have to feed y'all. All she was there to do was to serve y'all wine. But she kind of went above and beyond a little bit. And I just thought that was kind of low down of her friend, especially. I don't expect much from LaToya right now, because we don't know LaToya. And as far as we know, LaToya and Cynthia may not ever get along, but Kenya, that's supposed to be your girl. So you ought to just kind of pipe down a little bit. Don't give LaToya that kind of energy towards Cynthia. And Cynthia even said the same thing, all right, LaToya, I don't know you, you need to just kind of pipe down a little bit. So then Marlo shows up, and Marlo isn't as covered as she was, or as precautious as she was originally. She didn't bring the thermometer, and she didn't have the face shield and all that other stuff. But she showed up, and Kenya, immediately starts shading her, referring to how she has fallen off in the fashion sense. They showed Marlo in that net get up that she had on the other day, and then today she had on like some shorts. It was like a jumper, like a sequence kind of jumper. It was cute to me. But Kenya seems to feel that Marlo has fallen off. But we always know that Marlo is going to serve. She's going to serve us fashions if she don't serve anything else. Everybody has a bad day, but I didn't think that was one. But they don't like each other, so I don't really expect anything more. Now, they got on the subject of, Riley graduating, and I think that was why Candy couldn't be there. And they talked about Candy buying Riley a Porsche. And somehow this sparked up the conversation because LaToya says, oh, my first sugar daddy bought me a Porsche. That was the first car a sugar daddy ever bought for me. And so they were like, what? You had a sugar daddy? And she was like, yeah, when I used to strip, I met him when I used to dance. And so everybody was like, oh my God, what? And so Marlo, I don't even know why she opened her mouth, but she tried to act surprised as if she didn't know what a sugar daddy was. She's like, I always wanted a sugar daddy and blah, blah, blah. And so they were like, now, Marlo, we all know that your billionaire boyfriend or millionaire boyfriend, whoever he was, bought you a house, your mama a house, cars, and all this other stuff. And he was substantially older. That was your sugar daddy, ma'am. But we're going to let Marlo act like she didn't know what it was and that she wants one. So, whatever. And Drew, at this point, showed up. And Kenya automatically wasn't impressed. You could tell that Kenya has her sights on starting something with this girl. But she wasn't impressed with Drew, but she is somehow impressed with the husband. And she calls him cute. Disrespectful, but we see Kenya, she's going into her old bag and she's pulling out new tricks, or the same tricks, I should say. But something tells me that Drew is nothing like Phaedra, and Drew will address and check her about this. But Marlo shades Kenya, and she just kind of says, are you working? And Drew was like, yeah. She was like, well, maybe you can get Kenya a job, get Kenya a gig somewhere, because, she needs to work. And so I thought that was funny. That was some cute little shade. But Kenya didn't really find it funny. And also, LaToya, she lets Drew know that she doesn't like her for, the role that she played in the game. Production kind of cut it off when she told her she didn't like her, and had us kind of wondering why she don't like this girl. She don't even know her, but she doesn't like her for the reason that most of America that watched the show doesn't like her, because of her stealing Derwin Davis or sleeping with Derwin Davis, or whatever. But that's a different show. Now, they go into the kitchen, Marlo and LaToya, to get more wine. And Marlo just kind of whispers to LaToya that she needs to be careful of what advice that she takes from Kenya. And so LaToya was like, so I shouldn't take advice from her? And she was like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, as far as like how to pronounce words, yeah, that's fine. But when it comes to men, absolutely not, because Kenya can't keep a man if Jesus paid her to. So they got a little kiki from that. We see the fellas, Mike and Drew's husband, and I'm sorry I keep calling him Drew's husband because I just kept forgetting his name. But we see them, they're kind of talking, and Mike just is kind of checking to see where Drew's head is. I mean, not Drew, the husband's head is, with their marriage. And he basically just gives him a chance to kind of unload a little bit. And the husband kind of goes on and on about, they're quarantined together. He had to be her nurse, and he has to deal with her mom, and it's just a lot. And he tells him that he even had to leave for a few days. It just got that bad. And Mike just lets him know, I'm here if you ever need to talk. I've been through this a few times, and I'm a listening ear here in the city, if you ever need somebody to talk to. So that was cute. Now, the ladies actually start the wine tasting, and we get a flashback of the shade that Kenya threw at Kenya when they were on their trip that time, and she was kind of down in Kenya about her lack of knowledge of wine, yet you have a winery. But Cynthia does seem to have improved, her knowledge since then. She's kind of on point at this time. And LaToya then randomly just lets them know that she's going to set Kenya up on a date. And everybody's like, well, how you going to do that? Kenya is still married. And she's like, well, they're not together right now. And so that led her to, talk about, she feels like if you're separated or you're not together, that you can go and you can date other people. And Drew disagreed because she felt like, okay, well, what if, it's a separation? That's just time. It's giving you all time to kind of get your head right to figure out if you want to still be in the marriage. But if you get back together and you're out there dating, you don't think that's going to cause like strife or issues in the future? But obviously they didn't. So we go, I guess it ended, the wine tasting ended, and we are the next day or whenever, because Drew's hair is completely different. So this is some time later. They have like some weird time lapses, and you can tell that they were trying to cram some stuff in that they recorded earlier on. They were kind of trying to put different kind of flashbacks into the show. And I guess we're going to have to kind of follow along because they started a little late. So I know they're not going to put all of the show, that they intended. It's not going to be aired. So they're going to kind of give us little blurbs here and there about other stuff. But we see Drew's husband, and he set up a nice dinner for their anniversary. He had Chef Love come and cook for the two of them, and they were sitting there, and he wanted to, propose a toast, and Drew toasted to, the wedding that they're going to have on their 7th anniversary. And he's a little apprehensive about that. Obviously, he doesn't want to have one. And he instead wants to talk about things that Drew feels, is not working within the marriage. And she didn't want to go there. And she was like, oh, so we can talk about that? And he's like, yeah, And so she felt like it was a trap. It was a setup, which it obviously was, because they started talking, and she tells him that she feels like, transparency is a problem with them. That should be an issue that they shouldn't have a problem with. Yet he leaves for days on end and doesn't even have the, respect to tell her where he went. And he just refused. She kept trying to ask him, well, where did you go? People just don't up and leave for days and not tell their spouse where they are. He claims they had a blow up and he just couldn't take it. And then he starts going into this weird ass reasoning and about how you'll never understand the pressure of a black man. And I'm like, what? Y'all had an argument and you left. Not only did you leave the house, you left the whole state. He finally told her that he went to a beach, and she was like, where? Where did you go? Oh, you went to the ocean. Where on earth? There are tons of beaches. And he tells her he went to Tampa. She was like, we don't know anybody in Tampa. You just randomly selected Tampa. So that's a little strange to me. And maybe we'll get more of an understanding about that as the season progresses. But she also told him that she found a camera. They were sitting in the living room, or they were, in the living room or whatever. And they discovered that there was a camera in the house and that he was watching them. And he swore to the high heavens that he wasn't. She swore he was. And that, since he wouldn't admit to it, she got pissed off. She got up from the dinner table. She went and took her dress off, and she was done. And that's pretty much where that episode ended. I tried to give as much as I could about that episode. It didn't give us a ton, but I guess it gave us enough. We did meet 2 new ladies. So if there's anything else y'all want to talk about, always drop it in the comments below and we will talk about it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. And I hope that y'all have a great week. And I will probably see you guys Friday for my Love After Lockup, Life After Lockup review. So have a great week.